All right.
I swag. I sir.
I swag. That's my little that's my Boro Beast group. We got our tryout in the 15th.
Oh, nice.
We have our 7-on-7 club, and now we're adding. Well, we have flag leagues, so we
Mhm.
run those local. That's like rec kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
our club, 7-on-7 club, it travels. Now we're adding girls flag travel too
nice.
to our 7-on-7. But our boys 7-on-7, dude,
Getting after it.
we have 8U, 9U, 10U, 11U, 12U. This year, 13U, 14U, 15U, and 18U. Every level.
Yeah.
Crazy. And multiple teams on some of the levels. We have multiple teams because we do like we have like some guys that like um I'm with this pop water team. Can I bring my guys over with you and then just pick up a couple of kids? That's what
Sure.
we do it so like they can kind of keep some of their guys together too. Um, but it's great, dude. Dude, I think that I could credit that. That's where our guys really started learning the passing game last year.
Yeah. I would imagine, man, that it helps a lot through like having.
As long as you get rid of the ball quickly, like I don't let the kids like Troy and the other quarterback that is on our team. Like I don't let them hold that ball. Like I'm like, you gotta make decisions, dude.
Yeah.
Even at
No,
9, like I try to just because I'm like, you know what, the better you get at making quick decisions, that's
mhm.
just gonna stay with you. You could always go slower if you have to.
Yep.
It's the guys who go slow can't speed up.
Correct.
It's the other way around. If you
Yep.
go too fast, let's say you got rid of the ball too quickly, I can slow you down. I can't speed up a guy that makes slow decisions. It's just
Yeah, you can always manipulate footwork and different things like that to where it slows down. It's hard to, like you said, to speed people up because either they don't have the ability to do it, which they show you right away, or they don't understand it and they're not processing it quick enough.
I had a discussion with do you know Joe Villapiano? He was played at UConn with like Steve Cully. I think he was there.
No,
He coached at
I saw
Harvard,
it.
and
Didn't he do something with him? He
uh,
did a pod.
he
Was that
probably
him?
he probably did some things. Yeah,
Yeah. But-
but he coached at Harvard and at Cornell. I think at Cornell, and he's coached for like 20 years in college.
Okay.
But now he's not. I think last year he was let go, and I don't know if he's going. I'm not sure if he's going back.
Right.
But he was college coach 20 years, and it was interesting because we were talking about the UConn quarterback.
Hmm. Which one?
Well, I'm talking about the one who like obviously the starter and the guy they want to be the guy, right? Evers who
Oh,
starts.
ever?
So
I mean, yeah.
yeah. So my question was like, he was like, oh, he was better this week, because we talked about like they try to get him some easier passes to complete, which he did. They did that, and he was a
Hmm.
little bit better. But I said, this is just my observation, having coached a lot of kids over the years and watched a lot of football, that there are some quarterbacks to me that seem to be able to put the ball in the right place or on time or combination of both
Hmm.
that gets the ball in the receiver's hands either a little earlier or in a slightly better place that contributes massively to the
Hmm.
amount of yards they end up passing for versus some other guys you'll see them throw and you'll be like, okay, well, he went, completed the bowl.
Yeah.
It looks statistically, but he didn't throw a lot of yards. And I
Mhm.
think Yak, obviously you got to have talented players to have Yak. That's obviously a given.
All right.
But I think where a quarterback puts the ball in the timing and, you know, if I get you slightly more open, hit you
Yeah.
slightly more open, or hit you slightly more in the right place, that's could contribute to literally the difference between getting tackled right now,
Hmm.
10 yards more, 20
Yeah.
yards more, maybe a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
And so and he agreed with. I was curious your thoughts on it before we talk about the other stuff, because I
Yeah.
feel like that's when you see quarterbacks that throw for bazillions of yards. Let's
Yep.
say college, and I mean the pros is a little different because they're a little more rigid in their systems for the most part. But college, where they, when you get some of these systems where teams could literally throw for acres. The guys who end up starting for those teams and the guys who end up the quarterbacks that throw, those guys are not just in those systems. Obviously, those systems are helpful, but they've learned how to put the ball in the right place and get it there more quickly, or get the receiver in a better position so they're able to run more. It's not just about the completion, right? It's about the yak. People underestimate the value of the yak, right?
Well, I don't think they underestimate the value of the yak shoe. I think what it is, they underestimate the position, like you're saying, the position of ball placement. That's huge. Like, I will give Todd Fitch credit. Like, he's always preached this. And then throughout my career of playing, it's always been talked about. And some people that understand the position, you are the eyes for the receiver when they have their backs turned to the DB. The great quarterbacks are able to lead them away from the receiver or help them understand where they should turn their head first. So if the DB's on the right side, you want to throw it to the left side. And now they can peek, catch, turn that way. And if there's somebody over there, hopefully you let them to the right side. So that way you throw, quote unquote, throw somebody open.
Right.
And that's basically what you're talking about, is you're throwing a guy open. You're not just throwing it to a guy. You're throwing him open. So you see everything they don't see, just like a running back will set up a block. You know what I'm saying? To help their linemen. It's kind of that same thing. And that's where you see the great ones do it. It's not by accident that those guys, and like you're saying, like, it's not by accident that the great quarterbacks with all that yak yardage with the receivers, that doesn't happen by accident, bro. Yeah, you have beasts like guys that just run through guys, but you watch Hopkins with Kansas City. Dude went off, and he's only been there for 7-8 days. That says everything what you need to know about Patrick Mahomes, man. The guy's a stud, bro. He knows where to place the ball. He knows. Did you see that little flip pass he did? Plus, he's a playmaker, bro. He's playing backstreet football with freaking in the NFL. That's amazing.
Yeah, and there's I think guys who have, look, they all have pro arms, so it's not like they have weak arms. But I think guys who rely completely on the fact that they have a cannon end up throwing late a lot. They trust their arms too much.
And they have a huge windup.
And they get the ball there sometimes in a spot. Like this guy's got a great cannon. Why? Because a guy who knows he's got a really good arm, but he understands placement, and maybe that's like doesn't have the quote unquote the greatest arm. He has to have an elite arm, obviously, to be a pro or a top college player. But to compare, I call the Jeff George arm, right? Jeff George could make every single throw.
Hey, you might have to define who Jeff George is for these kids nowadays.
Oh, I know.
You're right.
Right, because he's even old. He's even old for me.
For us. Yeah.
But he had that cannon.
Mm-hmm.
He'd throw for 1,000,000 yards, and then he
had an unbelievably quick release too.
Quick.
That's like my man Steve DeBerg. Everything, I always talk about him and brag about him. The guy taught me everything, and it's all about his feet. You watch Jeff George, his feet he was light years ahead. Him, Marino, Elway, those guys that were in the 80s that were really good in early 90s to mid 90s. That is what the footwork is now being taught instead of this huge windup. The guys that have that windup, they have a cannon of an arm and they can throw it a country mile.
Who cares? They get sacked.
Yeah, exactly. The windup takes too long. And I've always tried to tell this to quarterbacks is whether it's a defensive lineman putting his hands up in the red zone when they try to mirror you, the quarterback, because your windup's so long, because they teach linemen, if I can't get to you, I'm going to get my hands up and try and block the throwing lanes. But whereas if you have different release points, which Mahomes, we all know, has unbelievable release points,
right?
I should say. And all the quarterbacks now are starting to do that.
Right.
It's funny how it's changed, man, from having a quarterback that's like 6'6" back in the 90s and weighing 250, 260 and just standing there and throwing the rock. Well, not 260, but you get my point. To now,
You have different
got,
types of guys.
you got athletic guys that can make plays and understand throwing within the pocket on time, but then also being able to extend plays and get that release. It all starts with the lower half of your body, bro, and then the left side. I constantly preach that. And it's true, man. You watch all these guys, when they're in a perfect position, their feet are already set up, and all they do is they don't even really move that front foot. They just push off that back foot like starting a 40,
It's in one of my favorite videos. I don't know if you ever watched it, when Dan Marino was at Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, and they're interviewing him about who taught you how to throw, like who like you got this great release, this great. He said, my father taught me how to throw.
Yeah.
He said, my father taught me how to throw. He said, well, what did he teach you? He told me, get the ball up and out. I swear to God, I saw that video 2 years ago. Okay. And obviously I learned a lot of stuff from you, and I watch a lot of things. And I started that as my beginning teaching point with Troy. And now he's starting to evolve other things, but that was my teaching point. And I could tell you the release is like lightning because of it. Like for the longest time, like first year, all he would think about is up and out, up and out, up and out.
Mm-hmm.
And he just, now as I start to teach him more, like rotating the hips more, just get a little
more detailed with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Bring the back foot forward, bring it, you don't have to really, like you said, move the front foot down, but bring that back foot forward as you push off, and like you're getting that hip power. At giving yourself a little bit of follow through without gaining ground in your follow through, like like the old days you would gain ground. I noticed the difference. So like, and it's kind of hard. So one of the things I realized, it's actually pretty cool if you could teach. Because I always had kids in high school, right? And I was teaching them, from the time they were freshmen, and so you're kind of working around a little bit like what they've already done, and then you're trying to, improve that. But it's interesting with clean slate. Like a clean slate is interesting because the clean slate is only doing like this year. There's a couple of local guys I might like just so I don't have to do all the work. I might bring them to so you get a workout with some other. There's a couple of guys who are supposed to be pretty good.
Sure.
And just to get them more, a workout, so it doesn't always have to be me, because after a while it's like, but it's interesting because when you kind of like feel like you got something from the beginning, clean slate, and you're seeing it work in a certain direction, you're like, oh man, I don't want to muddy the waters on this, too much. Because I noticed in other things, like other sports, I started with a clean slate. Like basketball, I got my stuff from you, right? I started doing all that stuff. But as you start to play with other people, you get other ideas that go in there.
Sure. Without a doubt. Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're look, these are people who are basketball people. They probably know 10 times basketball than me. Yeah. But like, I know how my kid moves.
Yep.
I know how he moves.
Yep.
So like, I know like what I have to get on him about. Like, I know like the things that he doesn't do well. Like, I know so someone will see something that he doesn't do well and be like, oh, he's not gonna be able to do that. You know what I mean? And I look at it like, bend your damn knees, dude. Okay. Yeah. Like, if you, and like motivational technique. So it's interesting. Like when you coach kids and there is something too, like when you get them earlier and you could, if you have a way of doing things that is pretty good, no matter who that kid is, that you can actually kind of push them in a certain direction that could be, that you think might be best for them if you get to know them. So I used to always think, oh my God, why do these rec coaches so hang on to the kid all the way through the years? Because you know what? They had developed them a certain way. They got to know who they were, and it was very hard. So they followed them.
Molded them. Yeah.
They followed them each grade: second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. So now they're going to hand them off to high school, and it's hard to hand them off to high school because they actually want to go to high school, which you see like guys nowadays bring a guy on to be the freshman coach because this guy's really has had them for all these years, and he kind of like knows all these kids and how they move and what they actually do well and what they don't do well, what buttons he can push and what buttons he can't push.
Absolutely. They understand the kid. And that you're right, though. That's the hardest thing is here's what I've learned coaching, starting with little kids with personal training, like younger kids, around Troy's age and whatnot, where they're actually capable to do things.
They have to be capable. Yeah.
And they all want to show you how far they can throw the football. And they want to, it's like basketball. They want to show you that they can shoot from the 3-point line, and they develop bad habits. So they get bored with it. Even the parents, they're like, Shane, coach, I don't want to question what you're doing, but we've been doing the same thing now for 3 weeks. I said, yeah, because he needs this, the repetitive redundancy. Like he needs to do this when he's not even with me. That's why I'm glad you're out here watching this. So I give you a couple things that you can take home and do. I can tell he's not doing them. I can tell when he goes out, he just goes out and plays football and has fun with his friends, which is great. I mean, kids should have fun.
They're all going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, he needs to put 30 minutes in just focusing on little short things, just focusing on football without even throwing the football, doing little things to help create arm strength so we can move on to the next stages of development. And that's like one of the biggest things that I've run into with coaching younger kids. I don't want to say little because some of these kids are pretty big at 10 or 11 years old. It's kind of amazing what they look like at that age nowadays. But yeah, to your point, the movements and different things in understanding how a kid moves and what they do well, that way you know what you can correct and what you can build on. Those kind of things are huge when it comes to development, because I can't stand when I go to watch, like down when I was in Tampa, bro, there were guys that I mean, they made a whole lot more money than I made, but I wasn't going to sacrifice my integrity of what I coached just because I would get 10, 11 more kids. Now that would put a lot more money in my pocket, but I wasn't going to get a 18-year-old working out with a 12-year-old. That's just not fair to the 18-year-old, and it definitely isn't fair to the 12-year-old because he's trying to mimic what the 18-year-old's doing, and that's not going to happen. So, even when you have different even if you have like an age group where you work a certain group, 6 kids or so that are around the same age, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, versus, high school kids, 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Right.
Even when you get to that level, some of those kids, they're not capable of doing what the elite 17, 18-year-olds are capable of doing. So it's a strange dichotomy there as far as that's concerned, like just understanding that. And that's why I only like working maybe at the most 4 kids that are around the same level out at the same time. And even more one-on-one training, because each kid is, like you were saying, each kid's movement is different, and it's how to get the most out of that movement that they do for their max potential. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Who's I don't know if you remember him. I think he was on your recruiting visit, and he was there for a year. Do you remember T.C. Lewis?
Absolutely.
So do you know his son is the #1 quarterback in the country?
I did. I think you told me that before.
Yeah.
He always used to fall asleep in our theater class or something like that. It was in the big theater, and I think he was narcoleptic or something. I don't know. He would fall asleep eating. Like, it was crazy, but it was amazing. But that's awesome. Where is he now?
Georgia.
Georgia. Okay, I was going to say that. Yep.
Can't remember. Yeah. His son goes, I think, Carrollton High School.
Carrollton Lewis?
No, his son goes to Carrollton. His name
is Carrollton. I was like, damn, that's a crazy name.
His son's name is Julian.
Julian Lewis. I gotta look him up.
Yeah.
Julian Lewis football. Okay.
I think he's the number one quarterback in the country.
Is he really? Huh?
Isn't that amazing?
How about this? He's looking to visit Indiana. Huh. Who would have thought that?
I think he's committed to USC, but yeah. So let's segue to that before we get to Ohio State.
There it is.
There's your segue. Great job.
Do you like
State.
that? Do you like what I did there? Do you like what I did there?
How about Kurt Signetti in Indiana?
Yeah.
And what a 9-0.
9-0, bro. Dude, they're averaging 46 points a game. Verse is 13 points a game right now.
He did the same thing at James Madison.
Yes.
When he was head coach. The same, they were scoring ungodly amount of points at James Madison. They were undefeated.
Yeah.
I think they only lost their bowl game, maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's incredible what they've done. They killed Northeastern.
Yes.
They killed Northeastern. They killed Nebraska.
Yes. I think it was like 56-7 or something like that. Something crazy.
I watched the first half of that game. They killed Washington. I watched the first half of that game. They killed Michigan State 47-10.
Right.
I mean, now they have Michigan. I think they're going to smoke Michigan. I don't think Michigan's that good.
No, they're not.
Indiana's up to number 8. So if they beat Michigan this week,
yep,
they will go to Ohio State on the 23rd.
That's going to be awesome, man.
Is that is it at Ohio State? Oh, yeah, it's at Ohio State. That I hope they beat Michigan because I would love. And then they're going to be even if they lost to Ohio State, they're still going to be in the
Big Ten championship.
If they beat Purdue the next week,
right?
Which means they're probably going to be in the playoff, right? If they beat Michigan, they beat Purdue, even if they lost to Ohio State.
Yeah. They'll because it's 12-team playoff system. This year, so
they're. I mean,
I don't see them not being in it, man. This NIL, man, it's helping teams, and certain teams are going for the gusto, man, and they're getting big time players that they normally wouldn't get.
It's unbelievable. Here's their points. They scored 31 against FIU, 77 against Western Illinois.
77 points, bro. Indiana scoring 77 points. That's unheard of.
Yeah. Against UCLA, 42. Yeah. Against Charlotte, 52, then 42, then 41, then 56, then 31, then 47. Dude.
Yeah. Dude, they're averaging 46 points a game.
Dude, I can't wait to watch. I want them to beat Michigan because I need to see them against Ohio State on both undefeated.
Definitely.
That will be like that would be a game that I would love to go to. Oh my God, what is that? The 23rd.
Yeah, and here's the great thing about this Michigan game. It's at Indiana. You know that I would not be surprised if College Game Day, if they beat Michigan, they're going to be at the Ohio State Indiana game.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Imagine how much red and white. That's going to be like a sea of red and white because both teams, even though the Hoosier red is a little different, but that'll be a fun game, man. I'll be cheering the hell out of Indiana.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to root for the underdog.
Yeah, no doubt.
Was Ryan Day in college the Ohio State coach when you were because you played at New Hampshire? Was he after when you were there?
I think he was maybe my senior year, maybe. I remember we talked about this before, but I'm not 100% sure when he was there. But it was right
Chip
around.
Kelly coaching when you were he wasn't coach. Chip Kelly wasn't coaching when I played against New Hampshire, but maybe when you were, I don't know.
No, he was right after me.
Okay.
Well. Yep. Yeah, because the one quarterback I played with in Orlando, he was He was at what's that?
No, it was me coughing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he was at University of Maine, and he knew Chip Kelly through that whole ordeal, and he played against him. And that guy, he was right after me when he went to college at Maine, and they had a good team that year too. But with his squad, but yeah, that's going to be hopefully an unbelievable matchup to see. Ohio State had a close loss to Oregon early in the season at Oregon. That was a big time. Again, another transition, right? Going into Ohio State.
Well, before we go to Ohio State, you're
Yeah.
right about you said the NIL. Like they brought 13 players over Indiana from JMU, which was obviously guys that understood how he wants
Yeah.
how he wants to do
And
things.
while you're coughing, that exactly that goes into the conversation we were just talking about. A coach that is comfortable with his players, that he knows they can compete at a higher level, players that trust him, and now he goes in there. So it's not a big transformation for them at Indiana.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And he's probably the guy with the other transfers. Those guys are also telling the other transfers, hey, just follow what this guy does. Like,
He's a winner.
it'll work out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It'll work out. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's probably a big issue when kids transfer in, even though they're coming there to probably half of them getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably like, how's it all going to work, right? You always have questions about that.
Certainly.
But Indiana must have a bit. I wonder if they have one of the biggest NILs, because let me see the biggest NIL. Like which teams have the biggest NIL? Which teams? The biggest NIL. Jesus.
And
you should see what Oregon has. Oh my God.
I can only imagine.
Oregon has $969 million available.
Jesus.
For NIL.
And a lot of it comes, obviously, we all
all.
know that comes from Nike.
They haven't spent that all, but they have it available. Wow.
Yeah, they have it available. Yeah. What is it?
Here we go. NIL rankings. Here we go. All right, NIL rankings by team. I don't know how true this is. Oh, this is last year. This was last year. I wonder if it's 2024 because I know Ohio State has the most.
Really?
Yeah. They spent supposedly $20 million. $20 million on players this past year, and then it's top 50. Oh, by NIL efforts. All right, let's see what they have here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now. What you're looking at, the efforts, and it has Oregon at 1 with 969 million, like you said. A&M second. Wow, A&M, boy, they got a huge. I thought Texas would be higher than what they are.
Yeah, me too. LSU, that makes sense. Georgia makes sense. Florida State.
Oklahoma State is kind of surprising.
Yeah, well, that's because they have that T-Boone Pickens. Florida State. You know they don't know how to spend it. I'll tell you that.
You ain't lying about that one.
They're terrible. The Buckeyes are.
Yeah.
Buckeyes are 11.
How is Florida State 1-9? Golly.
I don't know what. Whoever they spent money on, they weren't too good.
Yeah,
Indiana. Okay, here we go.
Back.
Interesting. Indiana has 351 million available. They're 28. That's not bad.
No,
that's not bad at all. That's
no.
I mean, listen, Signetti, he probably got the 13 guys that he had from JMU. He probably paid them, but he probably got them at a fairly decent deal because they were at JMU. Okay,
correct.
Before.
Yep.
So even though he knew they were great players, he got the money. They probably weren't getting anything before that. The money, but he didn't have to overpay for that.
Right.
because they were at
Yes.
JMU. Whereas if you're
Yeah.
going to get a guy from Alabama to
Right.
go to Indiana,
Yeah.
you're going to overpay. I mean,
Now, I
you
am
got
surprised. This is interesting, man. This whole NIL, looking at this, like some of these teams that I thought would have a lot more in the tank, man, they're like a quarter tank full.
yeah, and that's probably going to affect their ability to raise. I had this discussion yesterday. I said the group that could spend the most,
Yeah.
although Oregon nowadays probably is after these group of schools. Oregon's
Yep.
probably next. But the schools that really, if they wanted to get into the game, they're not in the game, okay? But if they wanted to get in the game, if Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, they have $1 trillion in they have $1 trillion in what do they call it? Endowment. They have $1 trillion endowment for each of them for the trillion. Okay.
Okay.
So if they wanted to get into if they wanted to say, you know what, we're Harvard and Yale, we're gonna all of a sudden put the best football team out there in the country, they could do it immediately.
Yeah, there's an issue with that though. Academics.
No. My point is, if they really wanted to and they wanted to throw caution to the wind,
Oh yeah.
they could actually spend more on play. Like they could go literally to, they could go, oh yeah, we'll take Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State and give him 10 mil, and we'll give. I mean,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, if you have $1 trillion in assets, if you spend $1 billion,
Yeah.
that's a joke. You still have $999 billion
That
left.
doesn't even make sense, man.
So just think about it. Harvard or Yale or Princeton could spend $1 billion on their team, like a pro team, more than a pro team. They got more money. So, like it's crazy because Harvard's alumni, even though they didn't even graduate, but there's alumni is Bill Gates, one of the richest people in the world, Mark Zuckerberg. That's just two of the 5 richest people in the world right there.
Seriously.
Those guys are worth $1 trillion themselves.
That doesn't. Oh my gosh.
So I mean, but that's just the beginning, right?
Right.
So
but they put so much. They put so much integrity into educational aspect.
Of course.
That this is what bothers me about UConn is there is no doubt that we could compete without a doubt in that realm. Not $1 trillion realm, but that we could be so competitive because of the NIL aspect. And we are becoming more competitive because you need players. Players win games, period. And we need to get players. Coaching only takes you so far. And we all know Connecticut is a rich state. Being a state school, there are some pretty good alumni that have graduated and from UConn. And if it was basketball, they don't have a problem doing it. But for some reason, football, they just don't want to buy in. And no pun intended there.
If you had $500,000 to give to a quarterback, you bet your bottom dollar you're going to get a damn good quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of money we had for our quarterback is not that much.
It's not capable. Yeah. No, you're right.
Like this is pay for play. So if Arch Manning got $3 million, he's at Texas, and that wasn't even, honestly, Arch probably could have got more. They probably didn't even, because they're already well. He got $3 million. He goes to Texas, right? Quinn Ewers, who's the quarterback ahead of him, or they split time. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but Quinn Ewers probably getting $1.5 million, $2 million. You know what I mean? They got 2 QBs on their first and second guys that are making $5 million combined. Okay, the backup's probably making more than the starter. All right, and like people are like, we got 25,000 to spend. Like,
yeah.
Now listen, here's what's so funny about Group of 5. What is it now? Group of 5. I don't know. Group of 5 versus Power 4. in group of 5, to be honest, the fact that we have some money to spend probably gives us a leg up over some of these FIUs and FAUs and these teams that don't really have any resources at all. But my argument all year long is I said I think we'll be fine in the group of 5. If we have to play a group of 4, a Power 4 school, they just are paying more for their players. Like it is what it is, dude. Like do you pay more for Patrick Mahomes than you would pay for I don't know who's average quarterback in the NFL? Yeah, I mean,
you could go with a guy like I don't know. You could go
anybody. He's going to get paid more, right?
Basically, go with anybody. I gotta get this damn lighting; it's killing me.
But yeah, so you're going to expect better performance. Like one of the problems that Dallas Cowboys have is they're paying a boatload of money, and same thing with the Giants. They're paying a boatload of money to quarterbacks that are not doing the job. You know what I mean? Like now, the negative on NIL is that you're paying the money. You might overpay for a guy, and he may not perform. The only positive of NIL, I never thought about this before. Only positive is if I'm giving this guy $1 million, whereas the NFL, they got a contract. He's guaranteed his money. Like he can go and just completely crap the bed. He's still getting that money.
Yep.
Okay. Yo, you get $1 million, let's say, and you don't perform, you're gone.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
You're gone the next year. Like they're not giving you that money next year. Like you're gonna come up and be like, hey, yo, I'd like to get $1 million. They'd be like, you were worth
no guaranteed scholarship.
Yeah. Now all you get is a scholarship.
Yep.
You threw too many picks, Yeah. So I think that's the one. I guess that the negative side is there's no loyalty, and you may not have them long. The positive side is if they don't perform that well, you're really not locked into any of these guys money wise for long term.
Right.
But I wouldn't. Let's put it like this. Like I heard there are people paying 4 years of NIL for guys. Like, man, I'll tell you this. Like I'd be like, you're getting 1 year, maybe 2, and that's it. Like if you know what, if you outperform your contract, I gave you $500,000 and you perform like you're worth $3 million. Shit, I'll pay you the $3 million next year.
Yeah, it should all be bonus incentivized. Then, yeah, it's truly like an NFL contract now or a professional contract, but it's not. It is, but
it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I guarantee you, UConn wins. They go 8-9 wins. Yo, players are going to come out on the team, be like, "Hey, man,
yeah,
I'd like to get like some money."
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of closed doors conversations going on. I can only imagine being a head coach now.
Oh,
what?
Oh. I don't know about that.
That's why you got to count on your position coaches to already get a feel on what the player is thinking.
You need those GMs and personnels on your staff because you want the GM and person, so the coach don't have to be the bad guy.
Right.
You need the GM personnel to be like, yo, John Q, B coach, and head coach. Like we gave him X this year. This was his numbers this year. This was our record. What do you think? And they're gonna be like, "Yo, he's a headache," or he's phenomenal. He's great.
Yeah.
If we can pay him, let's pay him. Like,
100%.
Like that's a good thing. Versus the coach having to be like, I think that all these guys, all the head coaches should just get away from.
They've got to get away from the negotiating table.
Get a GM, get a GM, player personnel, put it all on them.
Yep.
You give the input to him. You could sit there when the thing, but you don't negotiate it. Like don't negotiate against yourself. That's all you're gonna end up doing.
Hell no.
Let the GM and the collective guy and the and maybe the AD be in there.
AD, yes.
There,
yes.
But you already had that meeting where you said, like I think you could pay him, some reasonable amount more, or I wouldn't pay him anything more than he's getting right now, or even I pay him less. And then that conversation, right? Like, because if you get it as a coach, man, you get in your feelings, you like the guy, You have
Yeah.
a relationship with you. Like you don't
It transfers over to the football field. It kills the whole coach-player relationship now.
kills it, dude.
And these kids at that age are not able mentally to separate business from play. There's only a few that maybe can.
Guys in the NFL can't.
Right. Well said. Exactly.
They can't. They why am I not getting this?
Yeah.
So it's
I love your whining voice.
yeah. It's like what I
Justin.
do. But Troy's favorite is when I do his mom. Like when I talk like his mom. Troy, get over here. What are you doing? Obviously I don't sound anything like her, but he thinks it's so funny.
Yeah.
Because I always do it in like some sort of like a whitey-ish voice, and
Yeah.
like he just thinks
Too funny.
But yeah, my voice. That's all I do. All my voices like that. That's anytime I think of a player complaining, that's what goes out of my head.
Yeah.
Somebody with a high pitched voice and whining.
Yeah. Come on, man. Come on,
man. I'm gonna get that money.
Yeah. I'm a grown man.
I gotta get paid. I got what's the saying that everybody always says now? I got they don't say I want to get paid. I gotta what's the saying? I can't believe this.
Which one?
When they say they want to get that money, they say something else. They say something else. They say
I don't know nowadays.
Players say something. The kids say something else. They say, "Oh shit."
You definitely know better than I do.
I do know.
Yeah.
I do know. Oh man. Look, we used to say like I gotta get paid or get that paper, but they say something else.
Yeah.
I can't think of what it is now. They say
it'll come. It'll definitely come to you as we start talking more.
so yeah, Ohio State, Penn State, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this last week.
You're a Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Kerry Collins went to your high school, right? No.
Yes, he did.
Right, and then so you probably grew up like, I don't know if you did or not. You either love Penn State or you probably hate them. I don't know which one you were.
I honestly, when I was a younger kid, I really didn't follow college football. I was a basketball guy and an NFL guy. I followed the NFL.
Right.
Yeah. I followed the Eagles. That's when Randall Cunningham was there. And then I followed the Steelers, but I wasn't a big college guy at that time.
Did you have a favorite NFL team growing up?
No, I just like quarterbacks. I loved John Elway. I loved Marino. Those were my guys. Those were my two guys. And then obviously Randall Cunningham because it was Philadelphia, which was like an hour away. But that's one thing I never got to see him play in person, which I wish I would have. That dude is amazing, man.
Could you imagine him today?
His highlights, Randall Cunningham.
Could you imagine him today and with zone reads and stuff like that?
Gosh. Yeah.
Although he might have got broken in half because he was skinny.
He was skinny and he was long, but no, he wouldn't have because nobody would have put a hand on him.
He was
he was that elusive. And
how about Mike Vick in today's? How about Michael Vick in today's? System? A young Mike Vick.
Yeah, the only thing with Mike Vick is the same thing with Randall. Their release was so elongated.
It was.
That's why they might have struggled. They would have had to change that up a little bit, which they're capable of doing.
Randall did remember when Randall slowed down, he was with the Vikings and went to the playoffs?
Oh,
he was
dropping
he didn't pick up his lease. He was he may be the best athlete to ever play quarterback in the NFL.
That's a great argument right there. I don't disagree. I think
the Olympic level high jumper. He went I think he went like 7'6" or something in the high jump, or 7'4" in the high jump. Because he coached his daughter in the Olympics. His daughter was in the Olympics for a high jump. He coached her. He was her coach.
Yeah,
you don't want nobody else. That's he was her coach. That's obviously a different sport.
Amazing.
From the time she was a little girl all the way to the Olympics. That's pretty amazing, right?
That is. And he got her to be an Olympian. I mean,
she was an Olympian. She actually they thought she might win a medal. I don't know how she did, but
the fact that she even made it is
that's amazing.
Astonishing. Yeah, it truly is. I don't know how the guy, first of all, genetically,
Yeah.
she's a freak, just like he is. And he's such a great dude. I never met him, but just from locally understanding, reading articles on him when we had newspapers back then. Now you just get it all on the internet, and you watch highlights. But the dude punted a 96-yard punt or
No,
something
you
crazy.
punt. That's right. He punted.
Yeah, he punted. He did everything.
He did.
Uh,
He
was sick,
was.
man. But that Ohio State Penn State game. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting about Penn State is James Franklin is obviously a great coach and he's won a lot of games. I don't know if when I watch Penn State, they just some reason always frustrate me offensively.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they just don't explode on offense the way
It's
they
like
should.
they do enough.
Now, Ohio State, obviously, I mean, Ryan Day's an excellent offensive mind, and now he obviously has Chip Kelly as his OC. So, you got, two guys who are very good offensively.
Brilliant mind.
I'm sure. And I'm sure they're finishing each other's sentence because Day played for Kelly.
Very true.
And so they obviously I'm sure they run a similar style system.
Schematics.
Communication is probably – they probably use the same style of communication, right? So it must be really, really cool. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like Penn State, they win in all these games, but like it's somewhat always unsatisfying. I don't know if there's a way of putting it like that. Like you feel like I wonder if I can pull up the scores because I want to correct myself if I'm wrong because I looked. Penn State. So Penn State, I mean, they beat. So here's their
It's not staggering.
Yeah, they win. All right, they kill West Virginia. West Virginia stinks. They beat Bowling Green 34-27.
All right.
They killed Kent State. Kent State's terrible. They beat Illinois, who's good this year, 21-7. They beat UCLA, who's average at best. 27-11.
27 points.
Right.
Yeah.
They beat USC that was a great game.
Yeah.
33-30. Okay. Again, I thought they were better than USC, but
right.
They beat Wisconsin, who's not as good this year, although they probably whooped Rutgers, but Wisconsin, but 28-13, and then they lose to Ohio State. Now, I'll give them this. They do have
hold on now, real quick. Didn't Ohio State throw a pick six?
I don't
I don't know if they did. I think
I'll find out for you right now. Where's my box score here?
I know that their quarterback
yes. So
they
Howard
6 points,
and that was the game. Howard, the quarterback for Ohio State, Howard, is a Pennsylvania kid, and Penn State told him he couldn't play there, and he ends up going to Ohio State
and beating them.
But you're right, they did have an so they were up 10-0. Then they scored 10-7. Then Will Howard threw a second touchdown. It just, listen, it's Ohio State isn't the most amazing team either in some of these big games either. In all fairness, but I think a lot of Penn State fans are frustrated because they feel like each year they're right there, and they can't quite. It's a nice problem to have. I mean, for us at UConn,
right.
We love it. We'd love to have Penn State's problem. But it's interesting to see how each year they're they're undefeated and they lose. Then they're and they kind of have last year they were 10-3. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost to Michigan, who's great.
Who are you talking about?
Penn State last year.
Oh, yeah.
Lost to Ole Miss in the bowl game. Lost to Michigan, who obviously won the national championship. And lost to who did they lose to? They had a third loss. I don't know who to
talking about last year.
So there's a 3 loss. They lost to Ohio State last year.
Yeah, they lose to Ohio State every year. That's like James Franklin's nemesis. That's like what's his name from Michigan when he couldn't beat Ohio State until he won the national championship and then bounced. Harbaugh.
Yes, and then he won it. Yeah.
Yep.
The year before, when they were ranked 7, they were 11-2 the year before, and I guess their losses were probably Ohio State,
Definitely Ohio State
and Michigan.
and
So this is, I guess, with the fan base, which obviously fans are crazy, but this is I guess, you're from Pennsylvania, so you know how important football is, obviously, in that state.
Yeah,
They do not like being second fiddle to Ohio and Michigan, is my guess.
No doubt. That's why we were frustrated in my community back home in Berks County because Chad Henne went to Michigan instead of going to Penn State, being that Kerry Collins went to Penn State. And then it was myself, and then Chad Henne came like 4 or 5 years after me and ended up going to Michigan. So it's like, how do you lose an in-state guy who's a top recruit and would fit Penn State's offense perfectly because he's a bigger guy, he's athletic, and he can sling the rock? He goes to Michigan, and they beat Penn State again.
Henne's high school coach was different from your high school coach, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Henne's high school coach was the famous guy who got himself in trouble, right?
Yeah, he did. Yes.
Yeah, great coach as far as
X's and O's and communicating with players. But he did some things that were questionable. That's why I think he coached at Conestoga Valley.
I think he won
Central PA. And then so I think he got, before he got fired, I think he ended up leaving because my high school coach, we only, like with me and Kerry Collins, we only threw the ball maybe at the most 15 to 20 times. But with Chad and this new offense that he brought in, man, if they didn't throw the ball 20 to 25 times, something's wrong. Like, they're slinging it. Now, this is
unbelievable.
This is back in the early 2000s, late 90s. Early 2000s. And Chad Henne was throwing that rock around, which it was still kind of unheard of. Throwing it in high school at 25, 30 times a clip.
It made him into a famous coach because you're right. He won. I think he might have won the state. I don't know if he won it at your school, but he won it the next place he was at. He won the whole thing, I think.
Yeah, he didn't win it at our school. I came back to help as a volunteer. We went to district championship, and then I want to say like second or third round of the playoffs, state like semifinals, quarterfinals, something like that. But it was a lot of fun though. He knew his stuff from an offensive standpoint, and he knew how to mold quarterbacks.
Yep. Interesting. So the rivalry that those three, like, it's interesting because Penn State fans, I think what's interesting is this. Although there's some weird allegations that have come out about Franklin. I don't know if any of them are true, but I think it was from Vanderbilt, not Penn State. But as far as like the way that Penn State thinks of themselves, the way Ohio thinks of themselves, and the way that Michigan thinks of itself, like the people, like Ohio State fans cannot stand losing to Michigan, but in their mind, there's no way they should ever lose to Penn State ever. And Penn State, in their mind, thinks that they should never lose to Ohio State, even though they do every single time.
Right.
In the 80s, yes, you got to go back to when Joe Pa was a coach. Maybe they beat them, but in their mind, in Penn State's mind, and the people who live in Pennsylvania, there is no way they should ever lose to anybody from Ohio. Ever. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, I grew up
there's a lot of there are some comparisons I want to make, but I don't want to be
go ahead.
that racist guy. Just knowing was married to an Asian woman and
Yeah.
dated another Asian woman, and it's funny listening to them. So I think I have a right to kind of say this because I've been involved with Asian women for like the last 22 years. Some people may say, anyway, like they would all talk shit on each other and say like Koreans would talk shit on Vietnamese,
Oh,
Vietnamese
God,
would
yeah.
talk on Thai women, and Japanese like Chinese don't, yeah, and then Korea, don't get them involved because you got North and South Korea, and North Koreans talk about South Korea. Like, it was nuts, man. The Japanese like control everything, kind of a deal.
Well,
It's
they're
just
thought
funny how the hierarchy.
Japanese think of themselves as the class,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like I
yes,
read something on that, the way that
yes. Dude, it was crazy. I was like, wait, but y'all are all Asian. And my ex-wife and then my other girlfriend, they're like, no, it totally is not that. Don't you ever say that to another Asian like person, because there are certain kind of Asians and then there are other kind of Asians. And like I guess the Thai culture is like the lowest. I don't know, but
well, because if you look at if you look at and my mother is from Indonesia, so
oh,
but
okay,
she's
yeah,
Dutch. She was Dutch. They were ran out, but there's been intermixing. That's why I'm 20% Asian. But so the way that the whole the different countries, all the way stretching from Japan all the way to Pakistan and even India, right? Because they're
okay,
Asian, but they're just
yeah,
they um are just darker colored, right? So
mhm, mhm,
if you go like the Japanese and the South Koreans, okay,
mhm.
because South Korea's had so much success financially. I don't know how South the Koreans were thought of before their overall success, but they've become so successful, like one of the best economies, that as a culture they think of themselves a certain way, right? Same
Yes.
thing with people from Singapore. Very, very, very
Oh,
successful culture,
affluent, yes, yes,
affluent, right? If you
yes,
watch the movie Crazy Rich Asians,
yes, yes,
great movie. By the way,
yes,
one of the best movies.
hilarious.
It's a lot of people in America may not all watch it because they
I
may
was
not.
gonna say you have to understand the culture.
You have to understand, but like Japanese, absolutely, because before World War II, Japan was a superpower. Then
Yes,
obviously America helped build it back up, and it's obviously a tremendous economic power now again.
yes,
So their culture is very, very like they think of themselves as much more affluent. First of all,
absolutely.
if you look at like a lot of parts of Asia, like Chinese is obviously the most diverse as far as like there's so many people, right? But like there's the coast, and then the most of the people live, they live on the coast, but
Mhm.
most of the people live in this like outside of the main areas.
Like these
So
villages
I
and
mean,
yeah,
like almost a
foreign,
billion people.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
same thing with like India has a caste system. So
yeah,
like if you get a person from India who lives in America, they're probably for the most part, because they had to have a couple of bucks to get over here.
yes, they're doing
They're
well.
probably a little bit more. Their family may be now. There are exceptions. There's no exceptions, but a lot of them are going to be a little bit higher educated, right? So
Absolutely.
when they're coming here to begin with, because they in the modern era you had to have a few bucks. It's not like when people immigrated to America. I call it legal immigration, but legal immigration to America back in the 1900s when like Italians and Irish and
Yeah,
came over here. They just left. There was famines. They came over here for a better world, right? Like the people who come from Asia a lot of times are they had a chance to get over here, right? So they're probably not dirt poor, is my
hmm,
guess. They might
sure,
be dirt poor relative to Americans, but they're,
standard,
they're not
yes,
dirt poor relative to a lot of people in the rest of their country.
yeah,
With obviously there are exceptions, but it is interesting. You're right. So that's the point. So your point is that Pennsylvanians and Ohioans, I guess, is that what you call them?
Michiganians, I don't know,
Michiganians.
Michigans.
They all think of themselves a certain way,
Yeah,
right?
we all have that, like you said, a caste system. Like we think we're better than them, which are better than those, and vice versa. Yeah,
That's so interesting. I never
that's
realized that.
amazing though how we got on that whole topic. That's why I love talking to you, man. That's why we get it. That's why we're boys, bro.
Yeah, no, I thought
We
that
just,
that was interesting.
yeah. I
Now,
would
like,
love to see other people's comments on some of this.
oh yeah, and Jersey. Let me see. I don't know if there was a few comments before, but I don't. I think I probably bored them to death.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, now the funny thing is, like, Jersey people probably think they're better than everybody, but
Well,
they when you
especially if you're from, South Jersey, I guess better
but
than
not in
North
football.
Jersey, or North Jersey is better than South Jersey. Like,
Oh
how does
well,
that
yeah.
work?
That's funny coming from North Jersey now living in like central South Jersey.
Yeah.
Why is someone riding a bike through my backyard? What the heck? What's
What's
going on?
going on, man? You got drive by.
Oh, maybe they saw who I voted for. They're coming at me. All right.
Speaking of hierarchies,
But yeah. So like, Jersey football is very good, but a lot of the guys have not traditionally gone to Rutgers, right?
yeah,
So nobody in like New Jersey is like, oh, they actually think the opposite. Like if we're like when Rutgers was 4-0 or whatever, they're
mm,
just waiting for New Jersey football. Like people who follow Rutgers, they're just waiting for it to fall off. Like that's just how like
yeah,
Jersey thinks about Rutgers football. Like where you guys in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan, you're like if you lose a game, you're
yeah,
like, what the
yeah.
fuck?
What?
Like,
What? Yeah,
fire James Franklin.
yeah.
His record is
He's the
23
worst coach
and 3.
ever.
He's the worst coach. He's lost 3 games in the last 3 years. He's
Yeah.
horrible. It's
The
like
guy might not be a great coach, but he's a great recruiter. That's for sure. But I mean, he's not a bad coach at
he,
all. But
he is a great recruiter.
yeah,
He might
he's a
be the best
he's up there, bro. That's why they're doing so well, man. I don't know how great of a coach he is in game
I don't
type
know.
of coaching. I mean, I'm not there.
I don't
That's
watch
a good
enough either. I
question
don't
to
watch
ask
enough.
AZ. AZ is up there at
Oh
Penn
yeah,
State.
AZ's the recruiting coordinator.
Yeah, he's up there at Penn State now. So
He
that
loves
might be
it.
a
I
guy. I
think he
might need
loves
to hit
James
him up.
Franklin. He loves James Franklin.
Yeah,
I
I
talked to
would
him.
imagine he does.
Yeah. I mean, he. I talked to him.
I would love my boss if I was coaching at a D1 school.
Yeah, I was. If I was a recruiting coordinator, I'd be like, "Boss, I love you every day.
Yeah. Who do
I
you
love
want?
you
What
every
do you
day."
want?
What am I getting? What am I getting as recruiting coordinator?
Right.
250. I love you every day.
You're
What?
the best
What do
guy
you
ever.
need me to go get Dunkin' Donuts coffee? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You need me to do that 5 times a day? I'll do it 5
yeah.
times a day.
So,
I love when guys are like, "Oh, I don't want to be doing the coffee and the donuts."
yeah.
Man, fucking give me 250. I'll
Get,
fucking go get.
get your
I'll
ass
go
up
get you
at
the
5
donuts.
a.m.
I'll
Yeah,
go take everybody's fucking order. I mean,
right.
if you want to pay me 250
Get
to
out of
fucking be your handmaid, that's
here.
fine.
Yeah.
You want me to clean the floor? I'll clean the
I
fucking
got
floor.
you. What, with a toothbrush? Sure. Let's go.
Shit. I'm not gonna do that. You're not gonna do that. I'll do it.
Bye. Yeah, I know, right? Coach, look at me. Look at me.
Shoot,
Yeah,
my
I
wife
got
would be,
fired up now.
she would be like, "What are they going to pay you?" She's like, "If they ask you to get donuts, you get the damn donuts.
You get
They
the
ask you to get the
donuts.
coffee, you get the damn coffee.
Yeah.
If they ask you to go to Canada and stay
Yeah.
there for 2 months in the middle of the freezing cold, you stay there for 5.
Yeah. For 5.
Just
No
make sure you
doubt.
send the money back
Yeah.
home,
Dude, that's
but
funny.
you can stay in the cold."
Yeah. I'll take it.
Uh,
Moving forward.
Yeah, move forward. So what like I'm curious. What does Penn State have to do to beat Ohio State?
make more
good
plays.
players. You got to get better players.
Yeah, just make more plays. I mean, honestly, Ohio State, dude, Ohio State. So I was watching that game. They ran this one play. This is where coaching does play a part. Game plan and down and distance, certain things like that. They ran a play where they had almost like a tight bunch set, or is a tight slot or something, and they ran the back. It was a fake toss to the right. So they obviously ran this play before. And it was like a 3rd and short, maybe. I don't know what the down and distance was. They actually pulled the guard. Okay. So he fakes the toss. As he pulls the guard, it's like a full flow kind of a toss fake.
Right.
So as the middle linebacker, and it was man to man, it was a perfect play call for the situation. Man to man. So they pull the guard, fake the toss. And what I thought was brilliant, when they pulled the guard, now that full flow, the middle linebacker ended up picking. They ran an under going the other way. So it was a fake toss to the right. They run it under with the one receiver going back to the left. Ends up picking off the DB covering that wide receiver. Now, here's what's spectacular about it. Yes, they hit that guy, the number 1 read. It went for a touchdown for like 40 yards on a short down and distance type of play. Here's what I loved, looking deeper, going behind the curtains. What they did with that guard that was pulled, he stayed behind the line of scrimmage, obviously. And if he checked it down, if the quarterback would have checked it down, now it just turns into like a screenplay already built into a play. Dude, it was fascinating. And I don't know if that's how they purposely did it, Dave, but I'm going to tell you this. They need to. I love that concept. And they did some other things behind it where they could attack deep, but it was phenomenal. And so to your question, what does Penn State need to do in order to beat a team like Ohio State? Execute those types of plays better. I think it's the style of athlete that Penn State recruits. I don't think they get those fast guys that are just game breakers that can go deep all the time because of what Pennsylvania, what Jersey, what the Northeast areas really are great at building. I mean, we're known for our linebackers, our linemen, our quarterbacks. Every now and then, a DB, a running back. But we're not known for speedy wide receivers. We're not known for great corners.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And those are the athletes that I think we're missing out on. And we need to find a way at Penn State. I say they need to find a way at Penn State in order to compete with those guys. Even Ohio State, they don't always have those speedy guys. They get more speedy guys.
In the Florida, though, they got Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
And by the way, am I frozen?
You are a little bit.
Yeah.
You look cold.
Before I pull myself off and put myself back in, I want to go through. This was the thing that everybody was complaining about, this goal line stand. Did you see?
Yes.
So let me share this.
But that's where coaching comes in, though, too, Dave, is, having these kind of – this is where coaching does –
because this was the game, right? It turned out that this was the game. There's still a lot of time left, but this is the 4-play sequence, I think.
Yes.
Okay, here it is. Here we go.
Penn State with a chance to tie this game up.
So why did he pull? This is my first thing. This is obviously not a read, okay?
Right.
Because why are you going to run this power? So this was my question when I watched this before the other plays.
Yeah.
Why is this not on first down? This is where you want to make it a read because there's nothing to lose on first down, right? You're on the 3-yard line. Okay. So if they stuff the main run, the guy walks in the end zone and you're on the short side of the field, right? So, I mean, literally, like, there's not a whole lot of problems.
Yeah.
Well,
Penn State with a chance.
It looks like he's reading.
And it does. I wouldn't have pulled it either, though, with that corner waiting out there. Now, if they would have blocked the corner, now you read the inside guy. And if he crashes, which he did, See, they needed somebody to block that guy on the outside.
Game up.
I mean, you could pull it and have a one-on-one matchup.
Great point. You made a great point.
But, like, if that outside guy, I wish I could use a pointer as well. But if they block that corner and then read the next inside guy,
yes,
kind of deal.
That's too far. Why would you read this? You're reading the widest guy. This is a cornerback. Not the next guy in. The third guy in is your read.
It should be right. But you got to block that corner, though, if you're going to pull it. You
right.
know what I mean?
So this guy should be blocking the corner. The two guys, listen, the way they lined up here, this to me is a block everything.
Yes.
Okay. If you're going to do this, block everyone and you tell the quarterback.
I would say QB follow.
Grass, or you give it unless you see green grass.
Yeah, or I would just go QB follow. Like, if you're going to line up, I can't stand right now how teams anymore just line up in a formation down there with this type of personnel. Shift to this. Make the defense think a little bit. Keep the play simple. It's a simple power play or just a dive play or whatever it is that how they want to teach it.
They have more people at the point of attack.
Yeah.
If they just ran the Q, listen, if you're going to do this, you're better off just lining up the back as another blocker and just have the QB run.
Now, here's what I would do on first down right now is I would hardcore fake this and then dump the pass over top.
No one to cover him. No one's covering him.
A little
this
pop
is the
pass.
game. Exactly, because this is the game. The defense coordinator for Ohio State is they're going to – if they beat us on the pass, they beat us on the pass.
Right.
They tie the game. We are not letting them run it.
Penn State with a chance to tie this game up.
So, look, if that guy that blocked down on that linebacker, if he just goes to the E or the N in the back, that widest wide receiver, if he just stutters and stalks for 1,001,000 and goes and you ride it really hard, man, nobody's playing pass right now. Not one person.
Not one person is playing pass.
This is where first down, in my opinion, is where you take your chance.
Yes.
On a play action.
If he pulled it and this guy crashing on the blocking, that guy crashes and bends out, walks
anything.
He walks in the end zone.
Yeah.
It's going to happen fairly fast because they overloaded, and you see this this end is screaming, right?
Well,
so
here's the thing, though. You block that differently, though. You'll slide everybody a little bit. But now here's the deal, though, is now it becomes a run-pass option.
Yep.
So if number one, if that corner comes in at the quarterback, the quarterback still threatens the edge. But now he can just flip it to him, and it's touchdown. Or if that corner bails, then he runs it in, touchdown.
Okay, so in their genius, they said, let's run the same play, just make it a different look. We're going to motion this guy 71. So this is one every analyst complained about. He is zero threat to run a pass from out wide.
Well, yeah. I totally agree with that. That is the dumbest thing. Oh, wait, we're going to trick him this time. And we're going to line 71 out there. If they don't cover him, we're just going to throw it to him. Okay, are his hands that good? If they are, great. But really, what's he going to do? Run a route? No.
It's the same play.
It's the same play. Stupid.
Same play.
Now, he
blocks the corner. Why doesn't he pull?
Now, this one becomes a foot race. You're exactly right. This one should have been a foot race to the pylon.
But between him and the corner, I guess it's the safety.
Yeah.
They hand it off, Allen.
It's easy to be, Monday morning quarterbacks, but this doesn't make sense, especially with how hard they're pinching. Like, why would you not run this and run a speed option?
This reminds me of when the high school coaches that, God rest their soul, that coached me would be like, if we can't get in running the ball from the 4-yard line, we don't deserve it.
That's stupid.
Isn't the goal to win the game?
That's exactly right.
Not whether
And
you
who
deserve to win.
cares?
Actually, I've won a lot of games that I didn't deserve to win.
No, you did deserve it because you did win them. So screw that.
Right. But I'm saying, what I'm saying. You
Yeah.
get like,
Or
I
what if
remember-
they boot to the right? Like, what if they fake this and boot to the right now and just sneak this
Back.
tight end out here?
They give it to him.
Oh,
Allen.
same
Now
play
we run
again.
pass option.
Without a pull. Is a quarterback for Penn State slow or something? I mean, like slow runner?
He cannot be that slow.
He
Man.
can't be.
Come on, man.
Nobody's that slow
He's got to at
anymore.
least be a 4.5.
He's looking right there. If he
Yes.
pulls it this time, he walks in the end zone.
Walks in, bro. They got the edge sealed. You know what, though? What I've learned is sometimes teams don't give an option to
They don't
pull.
give an option.
I think you should always be able to pull.
Allen. And
Not always, but 90%. If you have an athletic
Somebody up
quarterback.
top has to be saying, dude, if you just pull it, you walk.
Yeah.
From the first play.
Right.
Isn't a guy upstairs saying, or
Dude, just tell him
the
to
OC
read it,
just
but think
pulls it,
pull.
walks
Read,
in.
but think pull.
Fire every analyst you have.
defense stout in the middle
I'm available, by the way.
And give it to the NIL money.
again. Fourth down and
Fourth down. Oh, they'll take 71, and we're going to go him in the other direction.
Now, here's the thing. Let's go back to the beginning.
Now it looks like it might be a pass because the
Go
guy.
back just a little bit. Can you go back to the initial? Okay, so 71 must not be able to catch because they don't even cover him.
They don't even cover him. You're
They
right.
don't even cover him out there. What are you doing with this? Why are you using this? So some genius at Penn State said, hey, this is going to be a great scheme for us. It's going to be a great package for us. They won't know what to do with it. Yeah, they do. They just kept all 11 men in the box and they ignored that guy out there. So if he's not a threat to catch the ball, why is he out there?
And he's going laterally before he's blocking, which is exactly what you want. If you want to stuff up the lineman, that's you. Anytime a lineman's going laterally,
goal at the one.
This is dumb.
Aller.
And what I say that it might be a pass? What was my indication? They never moved the guy out wider before, and all of a sudden, in your genius, all of a sudden, and by the way, 44, who they throw to a lot, who's like their H-back tight end guy.
Yeah.
He's like in the backfield a little more, slightly wider.
Deeper. Yeah. And they're not in a pistol set.
Yes, right. They're in regular shotgun.
Yep.
I mean, dude, they have people that are doing the same thing that you're doing and probably better at it.
Right. Well, apparently so.
Yeah, because they said someone up top said, "Don't even bother covering 71."
Yeah, they're in a double eagle. They got every hat covered up front, so you can't like really pin down. You can't pull anybody. Like it's got to be a hat on a hat, and now it's about who's lower.
No action, by the way. No action at all.
Like, come on, man.
I mean,
this is terrible.
These guys didn't even play run.
Now, here's the thing. What if you slip 71 out into the flat here? Like, he must not be able to catch. I don't know what they're trying to do here. This just and they're running a route combination of a flood concept into the boundary on the hash.
Is 71 even eligible? He has an ineligible number.
He must have reported eligible. He had to.
Allowed to report in college? Can you report?
He had to report.
Look.
But this makes no sense. You run into the boundary on the 4-yard line or 2-yard line, and where are you going to go? Like, what are you thinking here?
In the end zone,
I mean, they didn't have a chance. They triple covered.
How is that not picked off?
And
then to win the game, they ran like another dive play.
Oh, later in the game on a similar situation.
No, to win the game. Oh, that was the last play.
No, that was fourth down. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But my point is, dude, I don't understand what they that whole sequence of plays. Look, I hate teams that don't
Keep talking.
run.
I'm just going to go back out and come back in because
They don't run play action. Go ahead and do your thing. They don't run play action on first down. They wait till third down and or second down, and it's the most obvious downs to run play action. You run play action on first down typically if you get a beat on those on that defense and you understand what they're trying to do. It was a great idea bringing the big beef in, but if one of the guys reports eligible and is capable of catching the football, that's when you want to run that hardcore play action pass and then just dump it over their head instead of running hardcore play action or not even a play action and throwing the ball. Everybody knows you're going to throw it then typically on second or third down, possibly. I think that was poor play calling, to be honest with you. And that's Belichick says this all the time. Coaches don't win games, they lose games.
correct.
And players win games. And they did not give their players a chance to win that game with those basic ass play calls. I mean, that's something you do in Pop Warner, man.
I think you would be better off than all these big, heavy guys in the backfield who aren't used to being in the backfield and all.
Yeah.
Why'd you just line up in the freaking eye and put a receiver out wide?
If you're going to go downhill, exactly.
There's a threat for a pass, a slot that's a threat. You got tight ends, a slot that's a threat to run a slant. Or that can run, and you just get right on
line him out wide. And if it's one-on-one, take your shots with him. Get your best receiver, even if it's a tight end. And he's got great hands. And he's 6'6" against a corner who's 5'11".
Right, a slant or a fade.
Yeah, give him the option.
And then when you're in the eye or an offset eye, even you're in a situation where you have a more athletic person coming forward, and you're under center.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
The exchange is going to be faster for the back. The back's going to get it. The back's going to get it flying. When you're in gun, which obviously I run gun all the time.
Yeah.
When you're in gun, okay, the pistol turn and handoff from the eye, he does not have as much speed.
It takes a long time.
It's a slower play, which it's fine. It's fine. But when you're on the goal line, when you're on the goal line, and you have to say to yourself, if I'm going to do this, like I need a receiver threat so everyone isn't coming downhill. If I'm in a pistol, I'm going to turn, hand it off, blast power. You need to have a receiver threat. Take another guy out of the box, and then also now the safety is thinking twice about covering. The guy who's over the tight end because the receiver's out wide is probably in man on him and has to play run and pass.
Exactly.
So he's thinking twice. He's not going to be as aggressive. None of them are going to be those three guys are not going to be as aggressive. Just those three guys being not as aggressive, you probably have a 50-50 chance of getting.
You got a better chance, 100%. And when you're in that formation that they were in, get under center because everybody in the world knows you're running it. Why would you not get under center and hand it off and beef on beef? Like if you're going to bring big beef in and know you're running the football and basically run an old school 1947 dive play, then just get under center and run a dive play. I don't understand why teams do that, man. And I would have split a guy wide out to the wide field, the wide side of the field. Hey, if it's one-on-one, let's take our shot with that. Get our best red zone route runner, our strongest guy with the strongest hands, either throw him a jump ball or throw him a big body slant. All you need is if he catches it and falls down, it's touchdown no matter what.
I think to myself, like, I made that mistake in 2011 as a coach. I had a kid who was like he was a year away from being he was more of a defensive lineman. He was a year away from being a great player. And at the end of the game, I went for they went off sides. I had a conversion that went sent from the 3, was from the 1.5. And I brought in a beefy guy and had him lead. And, and it was a mistake. You know why? He couldn't get going as fast as what my fullback would have got going.
Sure.
So all he ended up doing was stuffing the hole.
Yeah.
And they won the game because of it. And I remember thinking, I'll never do that again. Yeah. I'm better off with a lighter guy who's just going to bang it up in there because he's going to generate more force than a heavy guy who takes a while, who's too slow. Those guys are better at the line.
Yeah.
And my thought process was that kid wasn't really didn't know all the plays yet on the old line. Next year he was a dog for me. He was my best line, but he was a year away, right? So it was. And I was like, oh, it's one of those things that when you're a play caller, you think you're cute and you're smart. You're like, I'm going to take this kid. He's a good athlete, and you out cute yourself.
Yes.
Dude, and I learned at the 1 yard line, get the F in the end zone.
Yeah. And the other thing too is if you're going straight ahead like a dive, I would even tell that big boy to get in a track stance. Don't even try and be fancy with your feet together. Get in a true track stance and push off and go. Because what they do is when they're in a regular fullback stance or a lineman stance, they're basically going to take a false step. And I'd rather them just be in a sprinter stance and let's go. Okay, if everybody knows it, which obviously they did, and that even sells it more for a play action. There are so many things that you can sell a play on just by certain alignments and stances that it kills me, man. You get me all fired up right now.
No, it's to me it looks like they were trying not to lose.
Dude,
that's the mistake. Every coach has made that mistake.
That's dumb. Okay?
Every coach.
I'm going out with man. I'm leaving everything swinging.
Yep. That seems to me like that's a group of guys that had not beaten Ohio State, and they're feeling the pressure, and they're like, you know what? We're on the 4. Let's just make sure we run the ball and get in the end zone and win.
I don't want to be criticized for being too fancy, but yet they bring in this weird package, and it's stupid, man.
Dude, the guy probably needed oxygen just 3 times running 20 yards.
From emotion.
What? I think of us taking Tavar. That was the same number as Tavar Kloss. You're gonna take T Kloss and have him go emotion like that?
Yeah. Oh,
just because he's a good athlete.
Tavar, if we would have put him out there, I would have thrown it to him because he could catch.
You can throw it past him. And he would have backflipped over you.
Yeah. Remember that and do a split.
Yes. Before we get off, did you see the play by Saquon Barkley?
Are you serious, bro? What? That was sick.
I thought that was the most. I've watched. Obviously you're a basketball guy. I've seen a lot of basketball guys. They usually do the most crazy things. Basketball players.
That was hands down.
Gymnasts do crazy things, right? They do crazy shit. That? What he did was crazier than when I see these gymnasts, do the backflips and shit. And he
landed on his feet.
He improvised it.
He did a spin move and said, you know what? I'm just going to jump 45 inches in the air and do a hurdler straddle type thing and keep going.
Saquon Barkley, if he wanted to be, could be an Olympic gymnast easily.
Oh, absolutely.
He'd have to lose 20, have to lose 30 pounds, right? Yeah. Which you could get slimmer and ripped. Yeah. But
instead of big and ripped.
Right.
That was nuts.
He could do things that no one in the world can do.
Yeah.
No one. He didn't.
That was amazing.
Practice that.
The fact that he didn't fall down on his ass after he did that, and he knew who he was hurdling with his back turned, and then was able to truly, if there weren't 4 guys around him, he would have been able to keep running.
Yes.
That if he learns to protect the football, that's part of the reason he fumbles is because he's such a great athlete. He does things that are non-human.
I always think too they fumble a lot of times shorter guys. Their forearms are smaller.
Yeah,
they're really muscular and they're not as long. and
Yes.
you know the football and how it fits.
Yeah.
It is a little. If you're shorter, your arms can't corral it.
Absolutely. That's why they in the NFL. That's why they measure your forearm and your hands.
Oh, is that true?
Absolutely.
I know
They
I didn't
measure
measure
all
the
that
hands,
stuff.
but I didn't know if that's why they measure
No,
the forearm.
they started doing stuff like that now. Measuring that.
That's what because Barry Sanders used to fumble sometimes.
Yeah,
Same
well,
thing.
he was another freak.
But I think I think if you're like I always felt like I will never fumble a football because the football fit perfectly. Like here it's like perfect fit because my arm is long enough, right?
Yeah.
But like if you're short, if you're like 5'8", now if you're too tall, it's also a negative too because
your forearms are too long. Yeah.
You want it to almost perfectly fit. Like you got to be like 5'10", 5'11".
Snug as a bug right there. You got to get
a bug right in there, dude. Right? Yeah, snug as a bug. But that's a good point. It's the same reason why I guess the quarterbacks they want a certain hand size because they feel like.
I wanted to ask you about this game too, the LSU Alabama game. Whoever loses that game's out of it. Who do you think's gonna win that one, man?
I think Brian Kelly's back's against the wall. I mean, I think he's a phenomenal coach. A lot of people don't like him because of the way he is or whatever. I think he's a phenomenal coach, though. Like phenomenal. But he's old school in the sense that he yells at you. He's mean. He's, as my son would say, mean. He is mean, and he is those things. But I think he's a phenomenal coach, and I think that his back, like in Louisiana, man. Louisiana, like if you're out at a hunt, they're really mad, like really mad.
And it's at Alabama.
Same thing with Alabama.
Yeah.
But I feel like whatever his name is, he has a honeymoon year in a sense that like, even though the fans don't give him a honeymoon year,
right?
But like he's just his first year replaced. Now if it happens next year, he's gonna be gone. But not that he should be. I think he's a great coach. Not that he should be, but just Alabama is. But I think that LSU, he's gonna be red faced. Brian Kelly screaming.
Yeah, he is.
And I think he's going to be able to try to will him to the table.
You think he's going to pull that one out?
I think if they lose,
it's
going to get real tight over there in Louisiana.
Yeah, it is. They don't put up with that. Yeah, they're both under a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Both of those coaches, and I do agree with you there. There's a little honeymoon phase with Alabama, but Brian Kelly, he's had a few years now, and 3 losses. That's not cutting it.
No,
not cutting it. And you lose to Alabama, and you lose. It's kind of like the whole Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State deal. You do that at LSU with Alabama and Georgia and different those schools. It's kind of the same thing there. Well, as well as I do with all those combines.
Georgia thinks they shouldn't lose to Alabama. Alabama thinks they shouldn't lose to Georgia. LSU thinks they should beat both of them.
Yep. And Georgia has a tough game this week too, playing Ole Miss.
Yes,
Ole Miss is not a joke.
Like Lane Kiffin's offense is phenomenal. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think he's as good a coach as I think he's a phenomenal offensive coach. I just feel like when it comes right down to it, Georgia's just going to punch him in the mouth.
Yeah.
And the Ole Miss, even though I think Lane Kiffin has made them really, really good, when it comes down to it, do they have enough guys to be able to handle that?
Yeah. They need more dudes in the middle, man.
In the middle. The D-line, O-line is the only thing that matters. Like, if your D-line and O-line can push people, whoever's pushing the other guy, that's who's winning. And the thing about Alabama, Georgia, and Louisiana, LSU, is that they have crazy D linemen. Like those states produce insane D linemen.
Like how are you 6'4", 310, running a 4'7", 4'6"? You know what I mean? Like
I feel like if they have a year when they have whoever has the best D lineman in that year, Georgia, that group's going to control the line, and that group's gonna probably win. Like the D line is such a big deal because they all have 6. But Louisiana, like, I mean, I don't. I've only been. I know I've ever been to Tuscaloosa. I don't think I've been to Tuscaloosa. I've been to Alabama a lot. I've been to Louisiana a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, you have.
I've been to Georgia a whole hell of a lot.
I love the crawfish down there in Louisiana. Those jokers are like mini lobsters.
I tell you, man, Louisiana is one of my favorite places. Everyone else in the United States, everyone time like they say Louisiana or even my wife, Louisiana, like, come on. I'm like, Louisiana is great, man. Where else can you drive for 30 minutes in the car following somebody and then you pull up to a barn and they say, get out. And I'm like, what? We get out and walk in and it's a damn nightclub. And I'm like, wait, what? It's a damn nightclub.
Yeah. And you're going 100 miles an hour too. Everybody is. They don't care.
And then another time I go and we follow. He coaches at college somewhere. I can't remember now where, but he was from Mississippi. We're in Baton Rouge, and we go. I think I was with Tony. Remember Tony?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think. I think maybe Dowdy was there. I can't remember, but we go, and we're just. He's taking us. He's like, this place is fun. I'm like, all right. So we leave Baton Rouge, and we're driving, and there's all these like refineries and stuff. We go past this refinery, and then we make a right, and like now we're driving. Like now all of a sudden we're in this little town, and we pull up, and there's a bar, and cars everywhere, and we go in this bar. And I like, when like the record skips, here goes some Jersey guys with some greased out hair, you know what I mean? Here come them Italians.
Yeah. Here come them damn Northerners.
And we're having a good time and everything. But I remember the guy who was with us like, he's like, I think we should leave. And I'm like, we were there for like an hour. We're having a ball. And he's like, I think we should leave. I'm like, oh, okay. We go out. Somebody like said something to us. And we're like, I'm like, are we about to go down? Is it about to go down?
Yeah.
But then we leave and it was, and then we left and, nothing happened. But it was such a like, I was like, man, Louisiana's fun, boy. I said, people get right. They're ready to get right after it.
It's a Wild West, bro.
I want to be here, man. This place is fun.
Yeah, man, that's the dirty. That's the deep South. Dirty. Hey, how real do you think the Ducks are, man?
I after what they did to Ohio State, I think they were really good.
Yeah.
I love the quarterback.
Yeah. He is pretty good, man. He's a baller.
He is.
He makes plays. Yeah.
Great runner, but they don't really unlike when they had Marcus Mariota, they're not calling a ton of like run plays from him. He just, when he takes off, he's just a legit athlete.
And for the most part, he takes care of the football pretty well.
He's a pocket passer, though.
Yeah.
Like, he's a pocket
takes
passer.
Care of the football.
He's a pocket passer with 4.5 speed.
Yeah.
Like, that's who he is. Like, legitimately could chuck the ball 50 times. But, like, oh, by the way, if you go on, like, he runs a QB draw, you're like, holy shit.
Now, let me ask you, do you think, exactly. Do you think them being in a different conference now will help set them up for playoff play? Because back then they're in Pac-10, and every time that's what I'm nervous about them is every time they got into the playoffs and they played a team that would come and hit them straight in the mouth, they weren't prepared for it. You know what I mean? But I think
that's always going to be
capable.
I think that's always going to be an issue. Well, the guys, their head coach came from Georgia. They came from Georgia.
Okay.
He might have been before that. I'm not sure if he was on Saban's staff too.
Yeah.
But I think he came from Georgia. So he knows what kind of guys you got to have on that roster to have a chance. Like that's different than what you see on the West Coast, you know?
Yep.
Like you're going to need the West Coast used to get away with like one of these Samoan guys and be done with it. He stuffs up the middle, Vidi Vea, stuffs up the middle, and that's it, Well, you need 3 of those guys.
Yeah, you need 3 of those dudes, bro. Absolutely.
You need 3. So I don't know if
Absolutely.
there's 3 available, you know what I mean? Because they're getting recruited by UCLA, USC.
Yeah.
So that used to be always the issue is that like they'd have one of those guys that now I always say this like I don't know if they're Samoan. Let me rephrase it. They could be Samoan, but
Right.
they're
I got what you're saying.
Pacific Islander
Islanders. Yeah.
descent because they could be Samoan, they could be
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, like and you know, a lot of times they're mixed with something else. But those guys are wide and very fast. I don't know what it is genetically that they have. They're strong, they're fat. Like most of those D linemen are like running backs in high school.
Yeah.
Just,
Dude, coaching in the Arena League, Dave, I've met and coached so many Samoans and played with or against them. Because they're a little undersized height wise. Not so they don't get those. Size. Yeah, not wide.
They're wide as the day is long.
Oh, and you talk about athletic and explosive and just moving all that weight around. It's crazy, bro. I've never met so many athletic big people for a certain type of person. The Pacific Islanders, man, those dudes, and they are loyal to the team. They will sell out to the great team guys. And man, I agree with you there.
Well, I guess they could be. There's a lot on when they come to the coast that I think are Mormon, if I'm not mistaken. But it's an interesting
question.
Like, I'm a Pacific Island descent, right? So, and mine's obviously a much smaller percentage, but there's just a width to the dudes. Like the dudes are like I'm wide,
right,
and I only got like 20%. You know what I'm saying? And
your athletic is all and explosive. Like you definitely have those genes.
I have my couple of my cousins have it. Like my one cousin, she's a beautiful. Well, now she's a woman. I mean, I think it was a girl, but she's much younger than me. But she was a pole vaulter at University of Houston. She was from Texas, and I mean, dude, like she was tall, 5'8", like great shape, crazy athletic, dude, like crazy, like. My other cousin was he was smaller. I don't know, what, but he was smaller, but he was the quarterback for this big high school in Texas. I can't think of the name of it, but he was played FCS football, was a safety, and he was freakishly athletic. It doesn't hit on everybody. You know what I mean? You got people that it doesn't hit on, but I just the big people who can run. That's basically the easiest way to say it is they have a lot of big people that can run. Like that's unusual, because usually big people are lumbering, and these dudes are quick. Bro.
They run like they're $180. I always loved them because they would call you Oos. Like if you got into their clique, what's up, Oos? Like that's like saying, what's up, dog? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And if they call you Oos, you're in there.
My favorite guy, like to this day,
they're good people.
My favorite guy, like I have a guy used to be the recruit. He's no longer, I think, in college, but he used to be recruiting coordinator for BYU for years. He brought guys to.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
He brought a bunch of guys to our stuff. Like they used to bring all these guys, and then like, now it's slipping my mind some of the names, but some of them are still in the league now. Like, I remember when Levine Toilolo, who's a tight end, 6'7" tight end. I don't know if he's still in the league, but he came out and he ran routes. I kid you not. I was like, it was unbelievable. And we didn't give him an award, by the way, because the receiver coach is like, this guy over here is like a great athlete. I'm like, have you seen this kid? He's 6'7". I'm like, I'm going to mention him. So I had him come up and, because I'm like, this guy's going to be in the NFL. That guy might go to Division I, but this guy's going to be in the NFL.
Yeah, right.
6'7", running routes. Dude, he didn't even get an award. We just said, hey, this guy's going to be a special player. He can do it. caught the ball really good. He was 6'7", probably 240, at
Right.
16.
Jeez.
And when I was I tell his mom, and I'm like, I'm telling his mom, like, he is a really nice kid and unbelievable player. She's like, do you really think he has a chance? I was like, huh?
Think.
Like, that's how friendly and like
Yeah.
conservative how they approach things. Even
Right.
if they think that their kid is going to be really good, you kind of if you brought your kid there, you think he might have a chance.
Yeah,
But
they're
they're
extremely
respectful.
modest.
They're very
Yes.
respectful. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that they approach you is going to be like, they may think their kid has a chance, but they're going to ask you to get confirmation, right? They don't want to impose it. But man, when they get in the field, they certainly impose it. So
yeah, they do. They impose their will. They dominate. But
it's interesting. So a bunch of people had some. Jesus is the only way to heaven. I agree. See, y'all remember Jesus love you. I'm a Penn State fan too, and even I think some of it they were talking about. Some of this is BS. I think she was talking about when we were talking about the plays they ran, and then Carl Thomas says extending James Franklin's contract for 10 years at a cost of $70 million in 2021 hangs over Penn State. It's like a sort of I don't even know what that is. Sort of Democles. I think it's a Greek person. Whoever dreamed this up should be fired. So I guess that's the overall issue that the fan base maybe has too. Like they're paying them $70 million. Maybe they're expecting that they're national championships. That is one of the escalating things in college football for players and coaches, not just coaches anymore. Players too.
Yes. Nowadays. Yes.
Like when everybody gets paid, like fan bases kind of think of it, even though there's really not always directly coming out of their pocket, but that's how they think about it. They think about it. I paid for tickets to come to your game.
Yes.
I bought a $50 jersey or a $100 jersey. Like I expect something for that, right?
They have an investment now. They feel like they invested into that.
When you had a scholarship, now not the coaches because they were getting paid, but the players, they might be upset with the player, but they hesitated, I think, because they're like, hey, you know what? Like, this guy's basically working for free,
he's young. He's still a kid.
We got to go recruit somebody else. Let's go recruit. But they're not going to get rid of you. Now it's like, get rid of them. Now my final question before I let you go is this. Shane Stafford, what would his NIL value be?
Oh, I know we discussed this. I'd definitely be a six-figure.
When you would have become, nowadays you could have probably gone back to college after you were done with your senior year. They probably could have said, all right, I don't know, figure out a way to get another year in because all these guys go to 9,000 years. But I bet you after you're right. So when you started, not my senior year, the year before when I was a junior, and you like led us to all those wins at and we went 8-3 or whatever.
We went 8-3 my redshirt freshman year. That's the year. Yeah, we came in, we beat Buffalo, and then we were basically the comeback kids, they called us or whatever.
We would have had to pay. They would have had to pay you.
Oh, no doubt. 100%.
They would have to pay you six figures.
And I would have had to hit them up hard then because, that next year we went, I think
we weren't as good.
5-6, 6-5, or 5-6, something like that. And then the next year, I think we were like 7-4, and then my senior year 10-3.
Right.
But yeah, I would have expected going into my senior year, I would have wanted like $250,000.
Yep.
Like I would ask for that, and if we settled at 200, cool.
D'Ambrosia said that. Said my NIL value was not as high, and I said no, but I think girls would have bid for me back in college, even though I wouldn't have got much from the university.
You would have got.
I would have got paid other ways, brother.
Hey, we would have had each other's backs, man. Like, look, that's one thing I will say about UConn. When we were there, we were tight, man.
We were. The guys were close.
We were. And I know every team says that, but we had some clicks here and there. And I will say, after I graduated, or my class graduated in '98, I think they lost that a little bit.
They did.
And it didn't help with Skip leaving and Etzel coming in. I think it caused for some tension, like pro Etzel, non-pro Etzel, because Etzel gave guys new, he liked some guys and he didn't like other guys. You know, if you're a Skip guy, he didn't like you, kind of a deal.
Right.
So we lost some of that. And hopefully they're getting it back, but I don't know if they will. I don't know if the NIL even allows that anymore.
I don't know if it allows it. I think you might have guys that are really close, like a few guys, like
a few little clicks.
I click with a guy. I'm really close with him. I notice how kids are now. They all get along with each other, basically. Like, in the old days, if someone left.
But it's all with this thing right here.
They all just stay friends. Like, they all stay friendly. But, nobody holds, animosity towards anyone, Yeah. But, which was what was different back then, which is probably why they're also all not as close. They all kind of keep that, I'm cool with everybody, but I'm not, invested in anybody.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that might be social media. I don't know. That might be social media.
I think it's a lot to do with this little device here where they do things and they're tight with them, but they do it through this thing. And they just constantly push buttons and, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Are you on this site? Are you doing this and this and blah, blah, blah? How much money are you getting? And how much,
And you know what else isn't as – so when we were in college, I think we didn't have devices, right? So we hung out, we drank or whatever.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So now kids don't really drink very much, and drinking is not a big thing anymore. It's really not. They're kids. Obviously, there are people that drink alcohol.
Yeah,
but it's not.
I'm glad. It's a good thing.
No, it's actually a good thing. I think it's one of the good things. They're good and bad, but one of the good things about how kids are, where they're more health conscious now and stuff.
Right.
They try not to. I'm not saying they don't party. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying they're very conscious of it.
They are.
I mean, definitely not like how we were. We just threw caution to the wind. But they literally caution to it. They are, and to their credit, more conscious of that kind of stuff. They know a little bit more. I see these things coming out. Like people are like, Captain Crunch is bad for you. Fruity Pebbles are bad for you. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm like this thing's cause cancer.
Remember, we would sit around and we'd get a handle and we'd play spades and then we'd go out. There'd be before we'd even go out, there'd be 10, 12 of us in a room. And then we go out and then you run into 10, 12 more guys. 12 more guys. Next thing you know, you're running into the whole dang team. And it was.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
I did. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad because I really don't know what it's like to be a kid.
I agree.
I see my own kid coming up, but I don't really, they seem to be having a good time. If you don't know any different, you don't know. Right. When old timers say, "Oh man, they're not but they don't know any different." So it's
right. You don't know what you don't know, man.
You don't. If you don't know any different, so then there's no way for them to relate to it because if you're explaining it to them, well, they're thinking, well, I'm friends with this person, or I'm friends. Right. Because you don't really know that part of it. But I think the big thing that is kind of the test is when you get together with people from a long time ago and all of a sudden it's you're right back into it.
Yeah, man. Yep.
I even noticed that I get along great with some of the guys that they're Etzel guys, but from all this stuff from where Steve, I've been on with, I'm these guys are great guys. You know what I mean? These are guys I would have hung out with,
right. Yeah.
And so that part of it I think is interesting, but I am curious of how it is now. If I were to go on campus, you'll never know, but I am curious what it's like now in the NIL era. Is do you think about everybody in the same way? I know they're cool with each other, but are they boys in the same way?
Are you down the road? Hey, yes.
I represent, and I did represent a lot of younger guys on NFL. And I got the vibe that guys within their own family, between their family, were maybe closer, which is probably a good thing. But I didn't get the vibe, even they were cool with a lot of guys. But they still hung out with mostly their family. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I thought that was like I didn't listen. I get along with my family, but I hung out with my friends much more than I hung out with my family.
Well, remember after the games, my family and like Shank's family and every guys would come down and we would all go like that post game.
Oh yeah, outside,
cookout down there outside while it was still nicer weather. Even if it was raining, like at home games, people always knew they could come down there and get a meal and you know what I mean and whatnot. And we'd be 10, 15, 20 deep down there. And with not just kids on the team, but with families and families connected that way too. And it was a family environment. It definitely was. And I don't know if that's capable now when you bring a guy in for 1 year, like Dak, a guy like Dak. Not saying that it's a bad thing.
I think Dak's a good example of that.
Yes. But he came in, transferred in, and Dak did his own thing at times.
There was, I think it's a level of trust. I think there's a trust level. Not that you don't like the guys, you do like them.
Yeah.
You do like them, you do, but there's a level of trust that more time gives you. Like, I don't know if when I first came to campus, like, I mean, from where I grew up in, and like, it was a different world. Like,
I'm gonna tell you what I learned from Dak. I learned how to be, and I don't mean this in any negative way, because I love Dak, man. Dak he's my boy, bro. But not a lot of people.
He's awesome.
Not a lot of people understood him. They always thought he was an individual. He wasn't. He just had a plan. He came from not the best scenario, his way to UConn was a long path. So he had to go through multiple teams. He transferred from one school, then he went to another school a junior college out in Arizona. Then he came to us at UConn, and he and I just clicked. And he was a good dude, but if you weren't in his circle, he didn't mess with you. And fortunate, I was a starting quarterback, and we just clicked. And he wasn't a guy that everybody liked because they thought he didn't buy into the program. But what people don't understand, instead of Dak going out, Dak didn't drink at all.
No, I know that.
Barely. If he had,
I remember a couple of times when he went out, it was the funniest thing ever.
Oh man, he would have like a sip and he'd be like hammered. But the dude was all about his business, man. He knew football was his way out, and that's all. People didn't know he'd be out on the track by himself at 6 a.m. or at 8 o'clock at night when we're all getting ready to pregame or do something like that. He's going out and working out. He's going into the weight room. He's playing ball. He's doing this. He's practicing routes, running routes. And he showed me, like, Shane, you can't just do what the team wants you to do. He said, yes, do that, but you got to do extra outside of that because they don't always hone to your skill set. Like we were talking about,
bringing got a little bit of that in him too.
Of this conversation, understanding your best, you understand your body the best, and so that's what I love about him.
Gooch had a little bit of that in him too.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, obviously, I was because of you. We became really good friends with Gooch. Got along great with him.
Yeah. Gooch was a different cat, man.
But he also kind of like
he was 14, 15 years old.
Yeah, and he used to say, like I remember he used to say when when Hargraves would get on him about something because obviously he was a linebacker.
Yeah.
When I was there, and he was one of the guys that they were trying to push ahead of me and what was the other? Was it Shem? I can't remember. They were trying to push him
at that Will.
Well, he was more a Will, but like he was kind of like becoming a jack of all trades, and they were trying to do with Sek too because Sek had talent, but he was like
he was focused on other things. Yeah,
right. But he had a lot. The guy had a lot of talent. I mean, both of them were very talented, and so he. But I remember like if he felt slighted, he would be like, "What like I mean, I'm trying to get you like I'm trying to get to a different level, right? Like that was kind of how he approached it. and it was contrary to how like trying to think of who was the linebackers with me. Like maybe like how Keatley and Dexter and even Shem, how he thought like they kind of didn't think about it in that manner, right? Like and they were all good in their own right, you know what I mean? But they didn't think about it in that way.
Sure.
I didn't think about it in that way. But I remember the other person who thought about it that way, and I think a lot of it is guys who had to go a different path. Dupree was also very kind of like focused on what he had. I got along great with obviously Gooch. I got along great with Dak. I got along great with Dupree. Like those guys liked me a lot. But and obviously I was probably like a stable. I was a stable player on the team as far as not. Just,
I can't believe you were never. I can't. This to this day baffles me that you were not a captain.
Hargraves came up to me. Hargraves came up to. I was certain that I got the most vote.
There's no doubt you should have been hands.
Hargraves came up to me. Hargraves came up to me and said, because I was, you know, the way I was disappointed, but I was always that kind of person. Just I moved on. Like I really didn't like.
Yeah, you don't dwell on stuff.
I didn't dwell on shit too much, you know. If I played in the game, I would dwell on shit, you know. But I'm sorry, like personally, I didn't dwell on shit. You know what I mean? Like if something didn't go my way, I just didn't dwell on it. That's just how I was. But yeah, like so I remember having. But Hargraves, like I didn't even like they gave the captains I gave it to, you know. But I didn't even think twice about it. Like I was just walking away, like you know, I guess you know guys didn't think I was captain. I'm like in my head, I'm like I'm definitely better leader than all those guys, but I don't, you know. But that didn't, you know, really.
That blew my mind, though.
Then Hargraves came up to me, so because I remember calling my father about it, and I was like, you know, I said to my father, I'm like, yeah, I didn't even think twice about it. It wasn't that big of a deal. But then Hargraves came to me and said, like, I didn't go to him, you know what I mean? He came up to me and said, you would have been a captain if you hadn't been injured that year. You know, that was your true freshman year, maybe, right? Was when I was injured, I think.
Yeah. Which, in my mind, even makes you more of a reason to be a captain.
Exactly. But I think that was Skip. I think Skip trumped me being a captain. Yeah. This is my theory.
I do too.
I think Skip, okay, because remember the year before, I moved to linebacker.
Right.
Okay. I had to work my way to become a starter. All year to become a starter. And now, if I was going to be captain and I'd barely been like I played a lot, but I wasn't the starter until like the last game. If they named me as a captain, I feel like they were worried. Skip was worried about what other guys would think. You know what I mean? But he didn't realize because he didn't realize that the other guys, you know, like everyone had tremendous respect for me. So it wasn't like. And the truth was, if I hadn't gotten injured and Skip didn't hate me as a runner, I was a starter as a freshman, as the running back, fullback. So it wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like it was like you moved me at my position.
I would have loved to have you in the huddle, man.
I was a better. Listen, it's funny because you know the guy whose job he took, who I love. Okay, well, actually, he took two guys' jobs. So one of the guys' jobs you took, who was a little bit taller than the other guy. So he is not a fan of Skip for obvious reasons, by the way. I would be upset too. Okay.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I listen, if I were him and I came in the way he was, a starter, right? Like literally as a true freshman, like I probably would have. I listen, in today's world, the truth was it would have worked out for him. He would have left and went somewhere where he would have started. Sure. He would have started immediately at one of those other schools. Immediately, right? So someone would have said, okay, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. Whoever recruited him probably out of high school. He would have went there, would have started. And actually, that's the beauty of the transfer portal. When that happened,
it was nice. Yeah.
He would have, and the other guy would have too. Those guys would have went somewhere else and started. They would not have, you know, they just would not have been the starter in this system. But when Skip did it, like, listen, I wasn't Skip's guy. Skip respected me because of what I did. And that me and Hudson got along great. Like I'm still get along with him great to this day. Like he
Mhm.
has great respect for me. Like,
Mhm.
but I was not Skip. Like Skip didn't really know what to do with me because I was
Mhm.
like not the fullback he wanted in that system. Even though the truth was,
You would have been perfect.
I was a great tailback in high school, but
You would have been perfect for a fullback in that sit. You were a little undersized, if you will, at that time, but you would have been perfect.
Yes, I was undersized
you
relative to the big fullbacks.
Yeah,
Catch.
he only ran that stupid stuff. Like I just think about that's a whole.
I was a Tom Jackson fullback.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He watched the film. Listen, if you watch the film for my redshirt freshman year, you would think I'm like those Big Ten fullbacks because even though I only weighed 225 pounds, I would come in and I would just.
It's probably part of the reason why you hurt your back.
Yeah, that's why I was all fucked up because I was probably undersized and I would just come in as full blast, literally full blast. When they would say you got to dig this guy out, I didn't. Nowadays you maneuver your body to dig him out, right?
Sure,
they don't make the fullback literally dig him out.
Yeah.
Like Ed Nook was 20 pounds heavier than me. When he would try to dig a guy out, he was 20 pounds heavier. Yeah. They asked me at 220, you got to dig him out. I remember Teddy Walton, you got to dig him out.
Now it's all about position. And
now it's position.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Back then, you dug that dude out. That
250-pound
tight defensive end.
Yeah.
Like I remember,
what?
We played JMU. This is true story.
Yeah.
And they're working me in. I was playing about Nook was the 60%. I was 40%. It flipped later on in the year when I became a starter. But at the time, I was 40%. And Wilbur Gilliard, it's the game that Wilbur Gilliard read for 5 touchdowns. And Wilbur Gilliard and I were the backups. We were the twos. Yeah. So we went in. He scored the 5 touchdowns with me blocking for him the majority of the game as the twos. I only played, but I remember, dude, the JMU had this defensive end. He was 270 pounds, and he was like Rennell Jump, like yoked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, you got to dig him out. And I'm like, okay. So I sprint. I went the hardest I ever went at anybody. I'm like, I'm digging this, out. Yeah. I'm digging him out. I dig this MFR out, and I go to dig him out, and I look up. I'm like, I put him on his back. I look up, and I'm 2 yards back from where I was. He puts me back.
Yeah. He's like, hey, little man.
That dude is crazy strong.
Yeah.
He pushed me back 2 yards. Yeah. I was like, wow, he didn't even try to make the play. He just tried to kill me.
He wanted to set a standard. He pissed on his fire hydrant.
He set the edge, dude. Yeah. He controlled the edge. I did not control the edge. He controlled the edge. I was like, I thought I killed him. Yeah. I was going full speed.
Meanwhile, you look up, you're like, wait a second.
Like,
what?
I'm right next to the quarterback.
Who?
Like and there's those, we play in the grass. The slide marks where your cleats slide. My cleats slid back.
Like how'd that happen? It's supposed to be on the other side.
I was like, I'm not trying to dig that guy out. I'm gonna maneuver him. I ain't trying to push that guy. That guy. I couldn't tell you his name. I couldn't tell you what he looked like.
Hey, that's when
his number. All I know is he was strong.
That's when you go up to the quarterback. Hey, check this. Check it to the other side. Let's go to the other side.
Do not run at him.
Yeah.
Do not. That guy was so strong. But it's funny. But yeah, I think, listen, I like Skip a ton. I always kind of looked at it differently than a lot of guys. My class was not fans because they felt like they were the group that was like crapped on, you know what I mean, type of thing. Mm-hmm. I remember listen, this is a true story. We're doing one of our workouts. You remember we work out sometimes in Gamble? We run sprints and stuff in there. Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
So we did something in Gamble, and we get done, and Skip was like reaming us for poor leadership or something.
Yeah.
And all the seniors, they come together, and they're like, "I'm not taking this shit anymore." Like, I'm like, what are you guys gonna do? Like that, literally. That's how I said. I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna not play football? Like,
yeah.
I was like, I would just listen to what he's saying and try to do it.
Right. No doubt.
Like literally, so that's why I always thought like I was, and the other seniors, like they would ask what I thought about things, even though I wasn't the captain, because that's how I thought about it. Like I thought about it like coach asks you to do it,
Right. You
you
do.
do it.
Right.
Unless he's asking you to do something.
But you were raised by your dad who was a coach. So
right.
And I'm the same way. And that's one of the things I know that we had in common that we could always relate to. And you're exactly right. You do what the coach asks.
Right.
You know?
And unless the coach was like doing something quote unquote abusive, like you got to do what, I mean, and everybody knows like, listen, long before you got there in the TJ era, you remember, I don't know if you know his name, but actually, I don't want to say his name, but there was a guy who they ran off the team and he not firebombed. He did a firecracker in the toilet and it blew up the toilet or something.
Oh,
and like literally, like he was kicked off campus. He was a lineman.
Yeah.
They ran him. I'd never seen anything like this before. They made him come the whole semester at like 5:30 or whatever.
5:30, yeah.
And they made him run 40/40s every morning.
Mm.
Now that, to me, that's abusive. Now, did the guy quit? Absolutely, he quit.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do.
Gave up his scholarship. You know what I mean?
I got some stories about that with Fort Scott.
That to me wasn't right. Like that wasn't right.
I got to talk to you about. So I'll tell you some stories from Fort Scott, man.
I think those things in football, as those things start to erode, I think those things need to get out of football. Like that. That's totally to me.
It tears the team apart, and unless you're trying to like truly get rid of the kid, and respectfully get rid of the kid, like you're trying to run him out of town, literally running him. I think that's BS, man. These kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. You don't know the backgrounds that they come from. You don't understand them yet. And now I think that's wrong. I mean, yes, you want to push them. You want to help them grow, mature, mentally challenge them, get them tougher. All that stuff's great. But there is a limit. And, man, to be continued with that one. I'm going to tell you some things about that at Fort Scott.
I believe it. Like, listen, I see it. We got to get off because we've been on 2 hours, which is crazy.
I know.
Basically,
I'm already late. I was supposed to meet up.
Basically, our show is basically us talking on the phone. But
it's a football frenzy, man.
But actually, we should change it to college football frenzy and cycle. What do you call it? What do they call it when you like you get like your therapy? Oh, college football frenzy and therapy.
Psychoanalysis therapy. Yeah, so.
It's not analysis. It's like our own therapy.
Psychotherapy. Yeah, no doubt.
Clear the head. But
you know what? Some people might catch on to it, bro, because they were like, "Yes, I remember having that same situation where I went to school."
Well, I think it's, those are the things that I think, when people argue good and bad of like what's going on in football, there are things that had to get out of football. I think, and I'm sure some things still go on, but for the most part, there are some, that's the beauty.
Yeah.
I think that's the one nice thing about the transfer portal. Like when I argue, I go back and forth in my head when I like it or don't like it. Like, listen, those two quarterbacks, they should not have been stuck, right? They were stuck. Right?
I
agree.
agree.
I don't know what would have happened to them, but you know what? They should not have walked out of their college experience. They were good enough to be quarterbacks somewhere else, and felt great about their own situation, right? But those guys were stuck, right? And then, by the way, other guys that who were great that backed you up, right? Great players. They could have gone somewhere else, right? Or maybe they didn't only have 1 year to start or something like that. So. Happens over and over again. So I think those things are nice about college football. I do think you are sacrificing a little bit of team camaraderie and those kind of things to an extent. But I do think coaches should still have a level of control and respect, but I don't think it should be absolute. That's the key difference. Like absolute is where it was a little dangerous to people's health. And we only know football. I don't know. Like I heard stories about track and field girls who coaches told them you need to lose weight, like you need to, girls were being anorexic, like, I remember some of these girls running around campus like, well, that girl probably needs to eat some sandwiches. She probably
get her a sandwich.
She probably feels like she can't. You know what I mean? Like you're on scholarship, right? Like that's just a totally, that's just a random thought I had from someone I saw, right?
Yeah.
And it probably happened but it happens at an extreme level at football in the old days. Football is where it happened over and over again. And my favorite movie is the movie about Bear Bryant, Junction Boys, because Bear Bryant did that times 1,000 to those guys.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
And then he realized, like, people always like, oh, Bear Bryant. Listen, Bear Bryant, for his time, look who Bear Bryant was in the beginning, and look at who Bear Bryant was in the end. Like, he continued to evolve, which was what made him great, right? That's what made him a great coach. Like, he continued to evolve over time.
Yeah.
And
what's scary about all that, though, is that was only in the 60s. Like,
that's the crazy part.
Isn't that crazy?
Not that long ago. Think about the 60s. Shane, how about
they got beat by USC? He was like, oh, look at all
that
those.
That was the 70s.
Oh, the 70s. I'm sorry.
I think that was the 70s.
How scary is that, bro? Like, it was that recent.
Well, think about so when we were 21, let's say, for me, it was 33 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? For you, wait, no. Am I right? No, 30, almost 30 years ago. 29 years ago. I can't even do math anymore.
Yeah,
29 years ago.
Right around there.
Say 30 years. Say 30 years ago. 20 years old, 30 years ago, right? So for 30 years ago. So if you think about when we were in college at 20, which for me was 94, for you was what, like 96, I guess?
Yeah.
94. If you go back 30 years from there, that was 1964. That was before they allowed in the South blacks to play. I mean, it wasn't really that long ago.
No, that's my point. Isn't that nuts? And we applaud Bear Bryant, and that was.
I don't applaud, but I say he evolved. I'll say he
evolved. Absolutely. And it wasn't until he got whooped by USC, and he was like, "Look at all those guys running around out there," and then all the racist white folk.
Yep.
Said, yeah, we want. That's so wrong, man. But again, man,
it is amazing. That's one of my arguments about America. That is great in the sense that the evolution from literally 60 years ago to now, it has been monumental in what evolved from where it was to where it is.
And it still has a long way to go.
It has a long way to go, but it's different. It's very different, though. I'll say it's very different. So I think the evolution going forward.
I don't want to get you started on another topic.
No. I just think it's different. I just think it's different.
We'll talk for another hour. I know.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of. I think it's
different. I don't think it's like. I don't think it's the. I think if someone was running around with a hood on their head, going after people. Other people would be battling back against that.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of running,
which is you're not going to see it. You're not going to see someone running around with a hood on their head, right?
No.
So the evolution is different. It is
different. Sure.
It's definitely more. You know what it is actually more, because there's so much diversity in America.
Yeah.
That it's almost like. A reversion of there's so much diversity of, well, only this group understands me. So people start to go, oh, this group only understand. Where I don't think that the 90s had evolved so much. The 60s to the 90s evolved so much more than any other time period that we went to school in a very, very, I would say the early 90s to like 2004, 5-ish time period, we went to a school, and the people like shortly after us in a time period where the kind of mission was for people to work together, much more so, because there had been so many things going on. Now the world is people look at it's almost like in business where you have a growth phase, right? Company starts out, they get a growth phase, right? And they start, all of a sudden they hit a boom, right? And then it becomes a slow growth, right? So we were in like a boom of change over those 30 years. And then people are trying to figure out, how do you incrementally fix things? That's what's going on now. Now you're like, how do we incrementally fix this, or help this get better, or help this get better? And there's pushback against this, but yeah, I mean, and there's philosophical differences, major philosophical differences on things that are very small. In the old, like, the old days, like if you had in the 60s, okay, Jim Crow, a sign that said no blacks allowed, I mean, that was pretty apparent, right? Like, that's pretty, you had to go on a balcony to watch, you see those old movies and how it was. It's pretty in your face, right? Like, so now,
I don't want to cut you off, man.
I'll let you go.
I'm already like an hour late.
That'll be a political frenzy.
Yeah. We'll have to. We can touch back on that. I just know that this is. I love this conversation, and before we get too deep into it, I got an appointment that I'm already like an hour late for.
No, let's let you go.
No worries, man.
Great, dude. Sick podcast.
It was fun, dude. I'm telling you, we missed 2 weeks, so we had a lot to catch up on.
Yeah. Actually, I can't wait. This podcast is good enough that, you know what? If there's an issue, we can actually, like, something comes up or something, it's good enough that there's so much content that comes out of it. Even if you miss a week, you have so much. There's so much stuff.
No doubt. And here's the great thing about it too is, like, moving forward, we kind of have segues already set up with some of this stuff too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, brother, I'll let you go.
Playoffs going. Man, getting closer to the to these championship games and different things, it's only going to get more intense and more focused and a lot more like I don't even know the word right now, but dude, I love it, man. I really do. It truly is like our phone conversation.
It is football, college football. Like, no matter what they do to it, I don't know. It's just It is awesome. It really,
people love it, man. They got loyalties, and it's great.
I still like watching. I'll see a FCS game from our old conference.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but when I see, like, Maine's playing, I'm not going to watch the whole game, but I'll watch it out. Yeah, because I remember what that FC, that was a unique FCS world. It's a whole nother conversation,
right?
But that was the Big Ten of FCS back then. So
absolutely.
Anyways, all right, man. I'll